Okay, so time for another project. I got this commercial building. You've seen the basement. That's the one with the crack in the wall that we fixed, and then the boiler. But I'm up on the second floor now, and these are just offices up here. Pretty nice. Um, and this building has a flat roof. It is inevitable if you have a flat roof building that you're going to get some kind of stainage. And I changed the roof a year ago, and these were the old ones. Look at that. It was pretty bad. So, anyhow, I got some gaps up here. I got to do 1, 2, 3, and then probably that one there, which is 4. We'll do that one too. But these things are fairly expensive. So where possible, I like to try to save money. I think these things are about, I'm going to say about 10 bucks a piece. They're 2 by 2s, so that's 4 square feet. I think they're about $2.50 a square foot. And if you can tell, they are the recessed kind. So they come down, they're acoustical panels. I like those. I don't like the kinds that, look like you're in a schoolhouse. So I got a fresh pile right there that's never been touched. And then over here, this came from another little area, and you can see that one has a stain on it. And then these over here. Okay, so this first tile, you'll notice it has a little bit of stain existing on the larger tile that was brought and saved in an area where I keep, excess ceiling tiles, because most of it was fine. It just had a stain on that one end. So what you do on these ceiling tiles is, if you can, save the bad tile, and that way you just line the corners and the edges together, and you see I'm Xing right there on that old tile. But the balance of it, like I said, is perfectly fine, and there's a lot of tile there. So but anyhow, you take the old tile that you want to replace and just line it edge to edge and corner to corner as best you can. If you want, use a pencil and just draw a line, or if you get comfortable enough, you can just line it edge to edge and line it up properly and just score it lightly with your blade. And if you notice that first cut and the end of the cut, so when I first put the blade in, I like to make a nice cut in on the edge, and then I draw the blade all the way down to the bottom of the tile, and then I flip the blade so the blade is going back into the body of the tile. I don't like to pull the blade all the way through the end, because what you can do is you can actually create kind of like a fray if you pull the knife all the way through instead of going back into it. So you'll see what I'm talking about if you ever try to do this. But the trick with these tiles is that they're recessed. So you can't just cut it to size and then put it back up into the drop ceiling, because the one side of the tile will fall down and be recessed, but the other side that you just cut will be sticking up about 1/4 of an inch or 3/16 of an inch. So what I'm doing here is I'm just cutting in the recessed amount of length, which is, I don't know, maybe 1/2 of an inch. You can see that there. And then I'm going to create that lip. What you do is you just take the knife, and with a little bit of practice and being careful, you score the top, and then you can just lay your knife on the side. And this seems to work for just about every type of construction knife like this. And if your blade and your blade holder is a little bit larger or thicker or wider, doesn't quite fit exactly like this, just put another tile underneath it and lift the tile up, or a small piece of board or something, and so you can get the proper height on that. But it's actually pretty simple to do. It just takes, you know, a good steady hand. If you want, you can draw that line on with the pencil, and then, you know, score out the line. I don't like to do that because you're actually going to be looking at that side of the tile, and there's a good chance that you'll see that black line a little bit, and I like it to be nice and crisp on these white tiles. So I choose not to use a pencil to draw a line. I just, you know, estimate and see how far to make that first cut on the surface that only goes in as much as the tile sticks down. So, you know, let's say if the tile is total a half an inch thick, well, you're going to go a quarter of an inch. So here's another tile, and unfortunately I didn't have enough scrap, so I had to get a brand new tile to cut to size. Same type of procedure. You get the old bad tile that has a stain on it. You put it down on top of the new tile. Here it's okay. I just, you know, use a pencil because we're going to be cutting that part off anyway, so there's not going to be a risk of any type of stain. And this is what I'm talking about on the edge. See that on the edge? You go all the way through so it's nice and crisp on the edge with a fresh blade. Don't be afraid to change out your blades a few times. They're inexpensive. Now watch what I'm doing on the flip side. I flipped over my knife and I'm cutting back into the tile. I don't just keep on going straight. And that's on purpose. I've learned over time that you can actually drag out the little fibers, and you can make that edge imperfect if you just keep on dragging the knife all the way through, especially on the first cut. So again, on this, I'm just going to eyeball it, and with a little practice, you get the knife in there, you're going down. Let's say it's a quarter of an inch, and you're not going all the way through, you're just a quarter of an inch. And, you know, just the first score, don't worry about cutting it all the way down to the desired depth. Just go ahead and make that first score, and then you can go back. It's perfectly acceptable to go back, and it actually makes it, you know, a cleaner cut. You'll notice that this room had carpet on the ground. So here I am, you know, just putting the blade on edge. And like I said, if your blade isn't that thick, you know, you can put something underneath the tile to raise it up to the proper height. But for some reason, they all seem to be about that height. So it just works out that way. I don't know if it's just a happenstance or what. But on top of the carpet on the floor, I like to do this on a very solid surface. I put down just, you know, a board that I had handy that's nice and flat, because it's important to have a nice stable cutting position. And, you know, it's okay, you don't need to put this up on sawhorses or anything like that. I actually kind of prefer having it on the ground because there's lots of support. You don't want any bending. You know, if you had it up on a sawhorse, you might have to have like a, you know, thicker piece of plywood or something like that. You don't want to have any bending or anything with these tiles because they can snap. So I like to put it right on the ground. I just get down on there, my hands and knees, and so it's nice and precise. Lots of control, and you're putting, you know, using your hands on there to stabilize the tile, and, you know, good firm hand pressure when you're, you know, pulling that knife through there. So, and then it just pops right in if you cut it right. If you mess up just a little bit, you can just take it back down and take off that extra little sliver to, you know, make it fit properly inside the drop ceiling. So now we have the last tile there, and here's again tile that I had saved that had some stain on it, and this is perfect. You know, otherwise that would have just gotten thrown away, but this piece of tile that I need to put in is smaller than what I have in stock there. So, you know, why pay for a brand new tile? And these things are fairly expensive if you go around and replacing these things all the time. So this cost me essentially zero because I already used the other half for, you know, a different tile or a different repair or what have you. And again, same process, just outlining the rough size of the tile and we're going to go through the same process of scoring it, and then going back in and cutting, and we're making that 1/4 inch reveal, and it's just all about having a nice steady work surface, a nice steady hand, and a fresh sharp blade. Those blades are so inexpensive. It's a lot easier just to replace that blade a couple times to keep that that blade nice and sharp. Especially with these tiles. These tiles have like a little bit of sand in them, kind of like a little granule texture, and that will dull your blade pretty quick. So again, you're seeing me, lots of surface area, very stable, drawing that knife, using a couple cuts at a time. No need to rush through this. And on the side here, for some reason, you kind of have to do almost like a little, I don't know, jerking motion. It's not really like just a straight cut. It's almost kind of like you're sawing through it, and that's just the texture, I think, of the ceiling tile on there. So again, no pencil line on this, but if you wanted to, put a little straight edge on there until you get used to it, and do your first little score, maybe down 1/8 of an inch, and then the second path, maybe 1/8 or another 1/16 of an inch. It's always better. You could always do more cuts and take your time rather than doing too much and then you ruin the tile. Now these ceiling tiles, you always got to put them up at an angle just to get them up in and then pop it down. All right, so we only have that one last tile, and that's, it was still up there, had just a little teeny tiny bit of a stain to it, a little bit of water that came through from the roof before I fixed the roof. So just, popping that down. Unfortunately, I didn't have one in stock, so I had to get a fresh tile that was brand new. Same exact process, line it all the way up, and this one's going to be a straight cut to cut it to size. But I'm going to actually save this tile. I mean, that has a lot of meat on it, and the stain is only covering, I don't know, 20% of the tile. So that tile would be perfect for a replacement tile, one of the smaller ones. Get yourself a little construction pencil. They're 18 cents at Home Depot on the checkout aisle. And you can always keep a fresh pencil if you have your knife with you. You can kind of see that sandy, surface texture right there that I was talking about, and that'll dull your blade real quick. So keep a fresh blade on there. It's really important. So again, I'm flipping the blade around. It's just out of camera shot there, but I'm bringing the blade back in to the tile rather than just going straight down and through. And that'll keep a very crisp edge on that end of the tile if you do that. If you just flip the blade around for that last final bit of the cut. So look at the angle of the blade. It's not a very, aggressive angle for this first cut. You don't want to go too deep. It's better to, cut 3 or 4 times if you have to, rather than cut too deep, because then you're, taking away the integrity of the tile itself. But when you get the hang of it, you can just do like maybe 1 or 2 cuts. I usually do just 2 now. I've been doing this for a while, and then just go back in. And you'll notice that, again, these sides, it's just the texture of, whatever they make this acoustic tile out of. You kind of have to saw the side of it to get a decent cut. Rather than the top, you score it. You just pull that blade instead of, that jerky motion. Always tap the excess junk out of the way so you can keep a nice clean work area. And going to pop this one in. There is a little bit of stainage for the tile that has the light on it, and I actually just use white paint. I have some cover up really thick paint. It's kind of a pain to replace those tiles that have recessed lights in them, because you got to take the tile down, you got to disconnect the little light. Sometimes it's, you know, screwed in to the cross beams of the drop ceiling, and you know, it's electrical and stuff up in there. It's kind of a pain. Then you got to center it or whatever and do the circle for the light. So those extra little stains you see right there, I'm just gonna touch those up with paint. You'll never notice that the stain was there. But check it out. I mean, you know, 10-20 minutes and you got a, you know, brand new ceiling tile. So hey, thanks a lot for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. I really appreciate it.